Hello, today I'll share how I made this Hanging Hearts Valentine's Day card. And it's technically called a four-fold card. And there are several tutorials for how to do these. They're new to me, they've been around a long time, but I thought they would be really beautiful with the Birchpress Designs Caprice Heart Layers A, B, and C. Also, they have a brand new die set out called the Stitched Heart Set. And I used the largest of those to make the window. And I wanted to show how it perfectly matches the Fiore heart layer A, B, and C as well. I didn't use them today, but I did want to show them. So I started out by choosing my layers of the Caprice hearts, and I chose a gold and then kind of a mother of pearl. It's called shimmer sheets for the center. And it actually changes colors as the light hits it, which I really liked, kind of that mother of pearl look. And then I chose kind of a vintagey gold for the bottom layer. And I just went ahead and stacked those layers. And I made two of these little hearts because they're going to sit back to back so that they can be shown either way the heart is hanging. I did want color to show through that base though, so I went ahead and made a base using pink glitter cardstock. And I used two colors because it was a one-sided cardstock, so I put them back to back. But I did trace them out pretty precisely. Because there are so many layers going on here, it's going to be a pretty thick charm hanging. And those layers need to be even on the sides as the sides would be shown. So I went ahead and cut it out the best I could and then put twine in between them. And then we'll come back to glue all this on once it sets up. But in the meantime, I went ahead and cut 4 5x5 sheets of paper. And it's kind of it's not technically a wood veneer, it is technically a paper, but it's kind of a hybrid cross between veneer and paper. So it's a really unique thing. It's made by Recollections. But after I scored them, I did make nice crisp folds with my bone folder. And then I'll be gluing all 4 of these sides together to create the four-fold card. But before I can glue them together, I needed to use the Stitched Heart set. And here's where I went ahead and die cut everything. And I just lined everything up on that center fold, which was pretty simple to do. The main thing to watch for was that the spacing was correct on all 4 sides. So to do that, I just went ahead and rather than measure it all out, I just took a little piece of scrap paper and kind of made a little mark on that paper where that sat so that I could just grab the heart, line up the scrap piece of paper with where that needed to be, and tape it down. And I did that on each one. Once the bottom's lined up, the top part you just simply line up against the fold. I wanted to show the little negative spaces. Those could make something cute as well. But here is the detail of that stitching around the hearts, and I just thought that was beautiful, especially for a window card. That really adds a nice detail. So now that everything's dry, I wanted to show you that example of why I went ahead and tried to make everything as perfect as I could layers wise. So here was my scratch piece, and I wasn't really careful, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but the edges are really uneven. So if I were to add a second full layer to that, it wouldn't have looked good. So I went ahead and just kind of trimmed it up perfectly once it was all glued and dried, and then I was able to glue each layer to each side. And you'll see me put this under an acrylic block to dry. I actually put some more weight on top of that just because it's such a big piece and I wanted a really tight glue there. So while that was setting up, I went ahead and started attaching the panels together. Now these panels don't go back to back. They half goes back to back and then another half gets inserted, if that makes sense. So I was gluing half panels together back to back. So these first 2 pages are 2 sheets. There's the first sheet, there's the second sheet. And then I did a third sheet to the back half of that second sheet. I know it sounds awful, it's really easy once you get going with it. But before I inserted the 4th sheet, I went ahead and put the charm in and I went ahead and glued that twine down just for a little bit of extra staying power. I could have glued the whole thing together, but sometimes when using just paper alone, which I know this is thick, but I don't know, it's just kind of unique. I thought that glue might show through. I went ahead and used tape, and tape will give it that really professional look without the warping. And so I use glue when I can, but always default back to tape when I need to. And then I just cut that little charm off, and I did put some more glue in there to hold that charm. I gave it a little squeeze to get the excess out, and then that gave just a really tight fit. And I did the same thing with the point of the heart, or any area that I thought might need just a little bit more reinforcement. And I was really happy with how the layers all looked even though I could see the layers from the side and the top, because I spent that extra time doing the center pink heart. I really was happy with how that looked. So I chose the You Make My Heart Flutter sentence from the Sending Love stamp set, also by Birchpress. And I did cut the words apart on that stamp, but if I ever want to use them together in a line, I can put them together just fine. I used my Misty, and I used some white ink just so that I could have a little bit of extra bright white. Sometimes the white embossing powder doesn't show up like I like it to, and just because this was an extra thick piece of paper, there was some texture there, I wanted some extra white, so I did use that. And then I very, very carefully embossed this with white embossing powder. There is a plastic texture overlay to this paper, and so it worked, but it would have peeled up had my heat gun been too hot on there. So I used little negative spaces from the little flowers and just cut them apart. And I thought they just made cute little embellishments, and I put them all around the sentiment. So I see the light is kind of hitting that left side a little bit more. It really was the same on both sides there. But I love how the little charm can flip around and look good either way. And overall, I just love this card. I'm really excited to send it out. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. See you again soon.